What's up, everyone? Welcome to Cruising with Cruz. I am yours truly, Cruz. So we finally got the 500 in and the Xfinity race in last night. I wanted to get this video out a lot sooner, but with my work schedule and me just trying to catch up on the last of the 500, because I went into work with probably, I think, 15 to go, something like that, and that's when all the action started literally picking up. And I also had to practically rewatch the entire Xfinity race, which that was also interesting to watch. So yeah, before I start, please like, subscribe, and hit that ring notification for more videos in the future. So let's start with Friday night's doubleheader, because we pretty much had two doubleheaders, one on Friday night and one on Monday, yesterday. So Friday night, let's just say that truck race and that ARCA race literally lives with that name now. And it's sad because, with the exception of ARCA, because ARCA is kind of known to have these kind of wrecks and just drivers not really using their heads because they're just learning, they're learning how to race at these big tracks. I feel like that name is kind of adapted with the truck series, especially now with these new drivers that are racing in the truck series. Like, I barely know even a third of the field now. But I was able to watch some of the race Friday night because me and my buddy, we were actually at a BJ's over here, and they actually were showing the truck race, and we were actually watching towards the end of the race where practically it was just wreck after wreck after wreck after wreck. And then that's when we ended up seeing towards the end of the race, coming towards the end of the race, we just see Taylor Gray end up flipping in the backstretch, kind of reminiscent of Matt Crafton's wreck, and I think that was back in 2017, 2018 when that wreck happened. So yeah, it was crazy seeing that. In my opinion, with that truck race, there was just too much aggression, and I think the way these trucks are and just how unstable they get in the corners too, I've noticed it's really hard to not be aggressive without being careful at the same time. Because yeah, I just saw even the drivers that were over pushing was like, oh my gosh, they were practically gonna wreck each other. And sure enough, we saw towards the end, Raja Carruth ended up getting a pretty bad bump, and he ended up just sliding up the track, and that's just pretty much what caused that last big wreck. Just pretty much that's kind of how it was the story of the race. Really, it was just a lot of non-stop wrecks, and for the ARCA race, it was just not any different either. I felt bad for homegirl, what's her name, Tony? I forgot her last name, but oh man, her interview was pretty hilarious because watching that replay is like, she was just in the middle, and pretty much homie just didn't realize that she was underneath her, and boom, takes her out. And ironically, he ended up winning that ARCA race. But congrats to Nick Sanchez on winning that truck race. I think that was a well-deserved win. But yeah, that was an interesting race to say the least, both of them. But then we fast forward into Sunday, thinking we were going to get the race in, even though I knew we really weren't going to get that race in, just given the fact that that weather over there was just really bad. And ironically, it's actually raining here where I'm at. So we ended up having the race. So they were initially going to have the Xfinity race run first and then the 500, but they ended up swapping that because I guess they weren't done with the track. And then on top of that, I don't know if you guys saw or heard, but I guess there was a jet driver that ended up leaking some jet fuel or whatever it was onto the track. So I found that kind of funny. I was like, hey, that kind of reminds me of a certain year. But yeah, so they ended up moving that Xfinity race towards the end. So essentially it would be the 500 then the 300 miler. And boy, that 500, it was interesting. A wreck within, I think it was 5-6 laps. I was really disappointed in that because it was just like, I get it, they haven't been out on the track for a while, and I think this is why they should really try to implement more practice throughout the weeks, because I mean, these guys barely were out on the track. The last time they were on the track was for that practice, and then their happy hour practice got rained out because it was raining Saturday, so they only had one practice in between the duel and the 500. So I think the lack of practice and just the anxiety just building up for this race didn't really help much. And I found it really ironic that Jimmy Johnson was involved in this one. So I came up with a theory, I want to say a little bit past the race, where I was like, there was a jet dryer incident on the track, nothing as close to what Montoya did in 2012. But Johnson gets involved in a wreck within 5 laps, like he did in 2012. And I was like, James Buescher was actually running, Chris Buescher was actually running really good that race. So I'm thinking in my head, like, maybe Chris Buescher's gonna win, because I wanted Kyle Busch to win. And as a matter of fact, I'll touch on Kyle in a bit, because my God, he actually ran a phenomenal 500. Like, I think he probably had the best car in that entire field, in my opinion, just because of how strong that car was. But anyways, yeah, I was coming up with a theory thinking that Chris Buescher could have won this race, just given the fact of, like, the 17 won in 2012. So I'm like, maybe the 17's gonna win again this year. That definitely wasn't the case. But anyways, that was my mid-race theory. But for the most part, after that wreck, it kind of did settle down a little bit. Really aggressive with the pushing, I noticed a lot of the times, especially coming from the Toyota camps, because I mean, they had a flush snow, so they were able to pretty much kind of just really push these cars like a little aggressively, especially coming from Bubba, because I saw both him and Truex were kind of pushing pretty hard, and Hamlin as well. But the thing I didn't really like about this race, and I'm pretty sure that's been a lot of complaint with a lot of fans, it's just the stage breaks. I really personally think they need to get rid of, not only I think they did a good job getting rid of the stage breaks at the road courses, but not so much with these oval tracks. I think the crown jewel races, like the 500, the 600, the Brickyard 400, and the the Southern 500, I think those 4 races should not have any stage breaks, period, and really make those races authentic as possible, because pretty much that was the story of the race. Was just, you heard on the broadcast how they're just saying a lot of these drivers were running 70% throttle to even 50% throttle, and it was just like, they weren't really able to run as full the distance as they wanted to. And I think these stage racing has got to the point where the crew chiefs and engineers are smart enough to really kind of dictate how the race is going to go for them, especially when it came to fuel strategy. But don't get me wrong, the strategy was pretty cool too. I think it was the first stage when all the Chevys came in and they executed that pit cycle. I thought that was pretty cool, and I think it was Chase Elliott that ended up winning the first stage. And but yeah, after that stage, that was the story of the race. Really, was just these guys kind of just running it like 50 to 70% throttle. And there was a point too where Ryan Blaney got really pissed off because he kind of just got ditched by his teammates, and I think he essentially went a lap down too. So yeah, reigning champ wasn't too happy. But yeah, that's the race progressed on. Kyle Busch, I think it was the second stage where he practically had a tire, or he didn't have a lug nut on his tire, and he had to limp it around the entire track. Had to start from the back, and he worked his way up to the front. I think he had to do it twice, where because I know he got penalized once, and then he got that tire issue the second time. So essentially, he had to drive through the field like 2 to 3 times. And my God, but I was kind of rooting for Kyle, because I was like, Kyle's got pretty much all these wins, all these crown jewel events. He's already a 2-time Cup champion. I think he just needs that 500 to kind of cap off that resume. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Ross Chastain started flexing his muscles towards the end of that race, and that's where I think the race got interesting. And honestly, I'm not a big Chastain fan, but I do like his driving style, especially the fact that he kind of just mixes it up towards the end of the race. It was very interesting because yeah, he was just really being aggressive with the blocks, especially against Logano and Keselowski. I was seeing, like, oh my God, like he was not letting those forwards get anywhere past him. And honestly, he proved, like, he's showing why he's running up front, and honestly, he was doing, I think the blocks were a little aggressive, but I mean, there's other drivers that are known to do that, and ironically, I mentioned both of them, both Logano and Keselowski. But anyways, yeah, for the most part, the end of the race was getting really good, and unfortunately, this is where I had to kind of just practically walk into work, so I really had to miss the end of the race. So once I went on my break, I was very shocked at the victor, but also I was shocked to find out that the finish it ended under caution, but it was a very, I guess you could say, controversial finish, because my boy Alex Bowman, because I'm a big Bowman fan, ever since most of my favorite drivers have retired. You know, Bowman's kind of been the flagship of my favorite drivers, and I was gutted when I actually watched the end of the race and saw how the finish ended up being dictated. I was like, no way. But I was really analyzing that finish, and as a matter of fact, I was watching what's his name, David Land's video on the finish, and yeah, there's a lot of I don't know. I didn't watch the because I know NASCAR released a video of the race director declare how they declared the winner. I've yet to watch that, but in my opinion, it's like, and this is where the flaws of NASCAR kind of shows itself too. You know, they really need to paint a really clear picture on how they're gonna dictate these winners and how they're gonna, you know, really establish like who and what is gonna be the winner and at what period of time, because those caution lights, when that caution light came on, Bowman was clearly ahead of Byron. He was very clear of Byron, and I guess from what I've been hearing is that they declared the winner based when they turn off that green light. So the moment they like pretty much turn off that light to turn on that yellow light, I guess it's like really when that's when the racing's kind of just, or they ended there. And then if they were doing the timing loops too, I felt like it was a little bit off. But there was a certain shot or a frame where I saw that Byron was barely, if anything, like maybe teasing a nose in front of Bowman. But even then though too, I was like, dude. And then essentially, I guess they established that Byron was the winner. You know, cool, but I was really gutted for Bowman. Like, seeing his interview, I'm like it hurt. That one hurt, because I really wanted him to win, you know? And the fact that he kind of, like, the funny thing was, too, I saw him creeping up in the field, but I didn't want to think much of it, because, like, once he kind of crept into the picture, it was kind of right when I had to go into work, so... But, oh man, Bowman, that one really hurt. Like, I was just like, dude. And, me personally, I think he, like, him wetting those poles, I think it just, it was a matter of time that he should have got the 500. That way, at least he has both, you know? And, but ironically, though, too, they're both Byron and Bowman were the kind of the ones that caused that big one with 8 to go. Which I found funny, because it was like, okay, now it's got to be declared. The win has got to be dictated by those two drivers. So, but, and then, oh man, Austin Cindric's post-race interview too, and how he was like talking smack about like La Jolla and whatnot. And it's like, dude, it's like, and that's the thing about these drivers nowadays. It's like they tend to be a little bit of a hypocrites when it comes to their own words, because it's like they act like they don't do the same thing on track, you know, and they get all like, and I understand, you know, I would get mad too, but it's like, take a little bit of accountability of your own actions too. And I saw too during the race, like Cindric was kind of being aggressive with the moves too, you know. It's like, you know, don't get mad someone's making a move that you couldn't do, you know. But La Jolla, I was kind of happy that he finished up there, and I was really gutted for Chastain too when he got taken out by Cindric right there. And man, honestly, that finish was very interesting, because like the fact that they threw the caution right then and there too, because I thought they would have given it a little bit more time until they actually saw like what happened, because Cindric was still able to move the car around a little bit after that caution came out. So. And again, this is where it comes to NASCAR's officiating. It's like they really need to kind of get that together, because if this is going to be the story of the season again this year, and I have a feeling they're going to try to add this kind of drama, because now that they have this Netflix series, it's like, are they going to kind of use this to leverage out the drama and bring up the hype of this sport? Because again, they need to bring I can't even say the word. You know what I'm trying to say. They need to make it more authentic when it comes to these races, because man, like if they're trying to paint a script on these races, it's like no wonder why you're losing fans to begin with, you know. And that's why I even say too, not only the crown jewel races, but even like the last race of the season at Phoenix. And on top of that, I think they should probably extend that race another 100 kilometers, because I was watching some old races when they used to race at Phoenix, when they used to have like the the 600-kilometer race at Phoenix, and that race was a little bit longer. So I'm like, you know, if NASCAR really kind of wants to make these races interesting, eliminate the stage breaks from, like, you know, the crown jewel races and most, if not all, the road courses. But aside from that, you know, I think the 500 was a pretty, you know, entertaining race, to say the least. The broadcast was, it's kind of hard to get used to because it's not like how Fox used to be. And again, back to David Land's point too, he made it clear that, yeah, I even feel the same way. It's like they made the 500 not feel as big or as hype as it used to be. Especially when 2012, when they had to postpone it to prime time, they made that race so much bigger, and that's when, like, social media was booming too, with Twitter, when Brad Case sent out that tweet, and then Juan Montoya, you know, crashing into the jet dryer, and just overall the finish was really entertaining to watch, you know, because that's when, like, the sense of urgency was kicking up, you know. But yeah, overall I think the 500 was a good race. I just hated that Bowman didn't win. If he did win, that probably would have made it a little more better for me. But, you know, it's cool to see Hendrick Motorsports back in the 500 victory lane, because the last time they won was when my boy Junior won in 2014. So I think it's kind of cool that 10 years later they ended up going back to victory lane. But yeah, that 500 was good. Let's not forget about the 300 miler with the Xfinity race. That race, man. This is kind of why I wish they ran that first before the 500, because I felt like the 500 would have had a different vibe had they ran that first before the 500, because I felt the 500 was just more, like I said, the anxiety just kind of kicked in, and some of the drivers that ran the 500 were in the 300 miler, like Adrian Allmendinger, Suarez, Nemechek. But overall, that race was interesting. I was gutted for Frankie Muniz. Malcolm in the Middle didn't finish that well, but hey, you know, I watched his interview, and hey, I liked how humble he was after that finish. You know, it's because, like, you know, it's either you're gonna come in there, you're gonna come out alive, or you're gonna get wrecked, you know. And that's kind of how the race was too. Nothing too crazy, not a flip, thankfully. But Austin Hill ended up winning his third straight Daytona race there, and man, that guy, let's just say he's gonna be a force to be reckoned with if he gets into the Cup and runs at the super speedway tracks. And coincidentally, next week we're at another technically super speedway race, even though it's not labeled as a super speedway, but it's technically a super speedway. But yeah, that Xfinity race was good. I was kind of heartbroken for Hailie Deegan too, you know. And it's like she said too, she has a really bad relationship with Daytona, and I don't blame her, you know. Like, man, it's just like she can't seem to catch a break at that track. But then again, not a lot of these drivers do catch breaks. Yeah, overall the racing was pretty good. Not as entertaining as I thought it would be. You know, there was some good action here and there. I think the commentating was just very dull with Adam Alexander, Michael Waltrip, and Andy Petrie. I kind of noticed Andy Petrie was favoring his cars a lot, since he does work for Richard Childress. But yeah, it was like semi-entertaining. You know, overall the Speedweeks was, I give it an okay. Is it going to be one that I'm going to remember for, you know, the next 10 years? Not really, you know. And I think that's what NASCAR really needs to reevaluate going into 2025. Is really just bringing the hype back into Speedweeks again. Make it a, like, shoot, you know, even if they have it, have the weekend going into the Super Bowl weekend, you know. Make it Speedweeks, as in plural again, you know, not Speed Week. Because, you know, like I said in my Let's Talk About NASCAR video, I like the fact that it was going into a week with a lot of news, you know, with the clash, the qualifying, and then, you know, then it was just like, all right, we had the practices within the week, and then we had the duels, the truck race, ARCA race, Busch race, and then the 500. But now it's just like, you know, it's like another just regular race weekend, you know, and like next weekend's not gonna feel any different from this weekend. So overall, I just think they need to bring Speedweeks the way it used to be back, you know. That's my little rant. Again, like I said, racing was okay. It's funny because like the way I watch these races now, it kind of reminds me of like iRacing lobbies now, especially that truck race and that ARCA race. I was like, oh my god. Because it's like, yeah, these guys kind of race out there like it's iRacing. Like I said, the cup was a little bit different because, you know, it's, you know, it's the top of the top, you know, and thankfully it wasn't as crazy. You know, we only had one really huge wreck and then a very controversial finish, to say the least. But I mean, that's kind of the product we have right now, and hopefully NASCAR does take in consideration to what a lot of fans say, including Junior. Dale Jr. really nailed the head on that point when he said last week that they kind of need to bring the Speedweeks entertainment back, you know, and have that hype for the 500 and all that stuff, because it's just very dull now, you know. It's like it doesn't feel as authentic, like I said. But hey, NASCAR's here. We're off to the 2024 season, which is crazy because we're almost done with this month, and then next month we get the IndyCars going too, and I'm gonna be covering some, or you know, doing some reviews on those races too. I'm still debating to do my weekly reviews on motorsports, because with my schedule right now and with my work schedule very consistently changing now, it's gonna be kind of hard to put this kind of content out there. But I'm going to try my best. As a matter of fact, after this video, I'm going to be working on something else outside of the racing entertainment, because I know that's mainly what I've been posting. But like I said, I'm trying to be diverse when it comes to my content on my channel, because I don't want it to be just about cars and motorsports. Because like I said, the last time I said I was going to post something else that's in regards to this, because I know a lot of my fellow anime people, or in terms of the Yu-Gi-Oh card players, know what this mark means, so I kind of want to do a video on that. But that's my overall review for Speedweeks 2024, or Speed Week 2024. Yeah, sucked that Bowman didn't win, but hey, you know, that's how the racing world works. But I hope you guys like this and enjoyed this video. Please, again, like, subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one.